So we have now before us Dr. Hamid Esmaeilion, if I said it right, President and spokesperson of the Association of the Families of Victims of Flight PS752. So over to you for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Thank you to you and the esteemed members of the committee for having me here this afternoon to testify on the government's obligation to the victims of crime. More than 1,000 days have passed since the day we saw missile attacks against a civilian airliner over the skies of Tehran. 176 human beings and an unborn child were murdered. Brides and grooms were murdered. Children were murdered. Many of the passengers were students with promising futures for Canada, for Iran. They all lost their lives senselessly just over 1,000 days ago, a milestone that we commemorated here on Parliament Hill just 2 days ago with a march and rally. Where do we stand? Where does the world stand? Where is justice in all of the politics, legal wrangling, negotiations and bureaucracy? The families of the victims were caught up in the aftermath of an atrocity that is unprecedented in the history of aviation. Despite their grief and anguish, the majority of the families have stood together along this unbearably difficult path. They have tried everything within their means to unveil the truth. The real stakeholders in this heinous crime have no power to decide, have no rights to information, and have no place at the negotiation table, not even their legal representatives. Within 5 hours after the shooting down of Flight PS752, when bulldozers grazed the site and destroyed evidence, the gears of justice must have engaged. From the moment that it was clear that the IRGC fired the missiles that brought down Flight PS752, the absurdity of leaving the investigation to the perpetrators must have been addressed. From the moment witnesses and victims' families were harassed, intimidated, and persecuted, an impartial international investigative body must have engaged with the whole affair. 55 Canadian citizens were murdered. Another 83 victims had close ties to Canada, but despite our efforts, the RCMP to date refuses to open a domestic criminal case because the perpetrators of this crime will not cooperate with them. It is my understanding from numerous conversations with people in the Canadian legal community, including a former Minister of Justice, that they have the power to do so, and it is my hope that this committee can aid in pushing that forward. The ICAO has yet to condemn the Islamic Republic's breaches of its conventions with an absurd claim of neutrality. We are pushing for them to do so when this new session opens to finally right this gross oversight. We don't want to hear about the complexity and delicacy of the matter. We are the biggest stakeholders, and by now, more than 1,000 days later, we know all too well that the road to justice for us is not easy, short or simple one. We demand a clear roadmap with concrete action. We demand empathy backed up by real turns in the gears of justice. We are not lawyers or diplomats or politicians. We are a collective of grieving families who deserve reparations that include the truth, justice, and closure, not empty apologies or financial compensation. Here is what must be done. 1. Our case must be tabled at the ICAO Council without delay and with urgency, and we must prepare our case to the International Court of Justice. 2. Canada must support our submission in the International Criminal Court through a state referral or a support letter. 3. The RCMP must open a domestic criminal case in Canada. 4. The IRGC must be on the terrorist list without delay. I call on parliamentarians of all parties and stripes to help us push forward in making these demands a reality. While I'm here, let me also just thank and commend all parties for working together with us on this to date. We have been grateful for your time and attention on this matter and your show of support both here at the rally, anniversaries past and future. We shall continue our efforts with increasing resolve, and even after 1,000 days, our pain, our shattered lives, our success, or even failure to get results, to unveil the truth and get justice, can only pave the way for freedom and justice in Iran. No matter how long it takes, we stand firm for justice and human rights. We shall never forget, nor shall we ever forgive. Thank you once again, and I welcome your questions on your work and mandate.